Good afternoon, seniors. Welcome to our first online lecture for our new class format. Today we are going through a basic, bare bones summary of Social Security and Medicare. So, what we're going to get out of this presentation, the basics of Social Security, basics of Medicare, and the issues facing both Social Security and Medicare. And then at the end, as discussed in class, I'm going to give you a resolution for our debate that you will have during our next lecture time together in Alumni Hall. So be prepared to take a side on that issue. I'm not going to give information about either side. I'm just going to give the basics. Then you'll need to look up information to argue either side that you're assigned to. So, basics of Social Security. So, as we talked about in class, that anytime the government creates a policy, a new public policy, it is to answer some problem that is brought to their attention by the people. Well, the issue brought to the government's attention, the issue that the government wanted to solve with the new policy called Social Security, was that during the Great Depression, at the height of the Great Depression, retired persons, or the elderly, had a much higher unemployment rate than the rest of the population. Though at the height of the Great Depression, the rest of the population would have 20% unemployment, whereas the elderly had 50% unemployment during the peak of the Great Depression. So, 50%. So, the goal of FDR's new policy, Social Security, was that all working Americans would pay into, during their working life, a small amount of money, and then when they retired, the government would then pay out. So it was a government-run retirement plan. Today, that continues to work, and people continue to support Social Security because it is a stable retirement fund. It's not meant, again, I'll repeat, it's not meant to fully support retired people, not pay for everything, but it's meant to give them a basic standard of living. So they will receive a check to support them and to supplement any income, any retirement savings that they've done on their own through the course of their life. So, how does it actually work? So every paycheck you get, you have to pay in 6.2% of your paycheck. So whatever you made, if you made $10,000 in that year, 6.2% of that went to the Social Security Trust Fund. Trust, let's see if I can spell correctly. There we go. Social Security Trust Fund. Your employer will pay in an additional 6.2% into that trust fund. So it's a very, very big bank account. It has billions and billions of dollars inside of it that employers and employees pay into. And once you reach retirement age, you then get money back out of that trust fund, that giant bank account that the government is managing for people. So, how do you get it out? Well, currently the law is that once you turn 67 years old, for anyone born after the year 1960, you will then begin to get Social Security checks. So the standard allotment, you'll get that check regularly in the mail about once a month. Support whatever retirement savings you have. Change slides. So Medicare, basics of Medicare. So Social Security was working very well. Social Security was enacted in 1935. Medicare, 1965, after World War II, after the booming 1950s, the prosperity of the 1950s, President Lyndon Baines Johnson added something to the concept of Social Security and Medicare. Medicare is simply, and we've just discussed this before in class, Medicare is health insurance for the elderly. So, again, the elderly in our country, we know that they do not work, but they also have increasing medical needs. So in 1965, when they wanted to start and realize the need for Medicare, the older Americans made on average 50% less than the younger Americans, but yet had 3 times the healthcare cost of them. As we get older, our bodies begin to deteriorate. We begin to need to see the doctor more. We all know old people in our lives and know the health problems that they have to deal with. That's expensive. And health insurance, if you don't have health insurance and you don't have a job anymore, new health insurance companies are not going to take you on as a new client, so to speak. They know that you're old, you're going to have high healthcare costs, so they are not going to take you on. Or if they do, they're going to charge you a very high amount. Medicare was meant to be anyone can get it. Anyone over a certain age has guaranteed health insurance coverage paid for by the federal government. Of course, that's expensive. So where does the federal government get money for to guarantee anybody over a certain age healthcare coverage? Well, again, you have to pay in. On your paycheck, you have to pay in 1.45% of every dollar you earn goes towards the federal government and goes into the Medicare system to pay for Medicare. Again, your employer also pays another 1.45%. What do you get out? You get health insurance coverage. Now, of course, there are rules about who exactly gets benefits from these programs. For Medicare, it's a lot simpler than Social Security, so I'll give you the exact numbers. To qualify for Medicare, you have to be over the age of 65. And you have to have paid in, all right, so you have to have paid in for at least 10 years to get the benefit out. And you have to have lived in the United States for a certain amount of time and be a United States citizen. So, pay in for 10 years, and then you get health insurance coverage once you reach 65 for the rest of your life. Pretty good system. However, there are issues. Issues facing Social Security and Medicare. The first one, you have read about it briefly before, but probably don't recall it, but there's something going on called the graying of America. So, the ratio of workers to retirees. We have these giant bank accounts and we need people paying into them so that the people that are retired can take out the money from the bank account. But with any good savings account, you want to be constantly putting in more money than you are taking out so that you always have some money left over, some money remaining in the savings account. But with the graying of America, we begin to have a problem. So, in the year 1960, let's make sure I have my tools correct. The year 1960, there were 5 workers for every 1 retiree. Let's put some words up here for you. So we have 5 workers for every 1 retiree, which means that you have 5 workers, let's say they put $10,000 a year, that's a large number, but round number for you, $10,000 a year into the bank account. And there's only 1 retiree taking out their small amount of money to pay for their Social Security. Well, in the year 2010, for Social Security, we only have, because of population growth and because there's more and more older Americans, the ratio of workers to retiree is there are 3 workers for every 1 retiree. So in the year 2010, there's only $30,000 being added, if we're going to stay with that example, $30,000 being added to the bank account for every 1 person drawing out of it. This causes problems because there's going to be more and more strain on people taking money out of the bank account and fewer people per person taking out able to add back into it. So if you have more and more people taking money out, but not equally more people adding in, that bank account is going to shrink. That bank account will shrink very, very small and possibly go bankrupt in our lifetime. Another strain on this is when Medicare and Social Security were enacted, people did not live much beyond the year 75. Even most people were barely made it to 70. But nowadays, there are more and more people living past that age. So the government calculated for them to put in that small amount of money over their entire working career, small amount of money added in, so that they could then have that steady stream of money that would last them 10, 15 years after being retired. However, nowadays, lots of people are living much longer. My Grandma Blanche, this is different Grandma Blanche in Minnesota, has been retired for nearly 20 years now. She's 85 years young. So she's been getting money out of Social Security, and Medicare has been paying for her medical bills for 20 years now, when she had done exactly what the law had told her, put money in while she worked. But now that she is taking out more money than she may have necessarily, or the program had designed for her, had required her to put in. She put in what she was supposed to, but thankfully she's living longer. But she's taking out more money than the program was originally designed to do so. So longer lifespan means that there is more people, I keep doing that, more people taking out money. These problems, the graying of America and the longer lifespan, both equally affect Social Security and Medicare. Medicare, though, has its own specific complicating issue, that healthcare keeps getting more and more expensive. It's a combination of, as people get older, the issues that they have and that they are able to live with are more complicated but also more expensive to treat, but also just general economic trends are that healthcare is more expensive. Medical school is more expensive, healthcare products are more expensive, and if doctors are having to spend more money to train themselves and to get the equipment that they need to properly treat people, that cost is going to be passed on to the people that they have to treat. It works that way in any business. So rising cost of healthcare is putting an extreme strain on Medicare. Social Security likely will stabilize. It might go bankrupt in our lifetime, but there are things that can happen that it will stabilize. Medicare is currently the largest thing the government spends money on because it's getting more and more expensive, and there are more and more elderly people, right, longer lifespan, working, and also a smaller and smaller ratio of us paying in to refill that bank account. So, resolution for debate. Before we can get to the resolution down there, I want us to think about that there's only two true possible solutions to fix either program. Many people have floated different ideas about how how people spend money. George Bush had one possible example that you can read about in your course pack. But there's only two real solutions to keeping these savings accounts filled. So, first option, we can increase the tax, right? So this gives us more money in the bank account. So increase the tax. So increase the tax either the 6.2% or the 1.45%. That increases the money in the bank account. Or the other solution, so we can either make the bank account put more money into it, or we can take less money out. So we can decrease the benefit. Decrease the benefits. Meaning, this will mean for us smaller checks for Social Security and smaller or decreased funding to health insurance. So less health insurance. I'll just put HI up here for now. Less health insurance. So the resolution that I want you guys to debate is, this is my declaration. In order to stabilize the long-term strength of Social Security and Medicare, the federal government will reduce benefits by 25% to anyone born after the year 1990. So I'm proposing that we not do this. Let's not raise taxes. People don't like raising taxes, but we can do. Anyone born after the year 1990, that's all of you, but not me. We will decrease the benefits. So your Social Security checks when you retire will be smaller, and your Medicare will pay less of it. So there are pros and cons to each, and I would like you guys to think about them and be ready to debate. I will be there to support you in class if you have questions, but you need to be ready. So, a few things I want to reminders I want to give you guys since this is our first time. Let's see if I can create a new slide. There we go. So, things to remember for class. First, take the quiz. All right, I'm going to make a quiz right now that I'm done talking. There's going to be a quiz on Quizstar. You need to take the quiz just to make sure that you watched it and got the basic facts. Second, read the blog. On the blog, there will be articles that give more information and links to things so you can read more about Social Security and Medicare, and you can begin to understand the different arguments and the advantages of advantages of reducing the benefit, why that would be a possible solution, and also why that might be, in some people's opinion, a very bad idea. Third thing, since this is our experiment, and I want to make sure it was all right, please have points of follow-up for me. I know you guys can't ask questions right now, and there are probably some things I did not explain well. I recognize that, so in discussion section tomorrow, please have points of follow-up ready to ask me. It'll probably be the do now. Be ready with points of follow-up. I'll go into a little bit more detail. I'll have this presentation up. So, that is the end of our first lecture. Don't forget to take the quiz, read the blog for extra resources, and I'll give you some specific page numbers to look at the two sides of the debate of increasing the tax or decreasing the benefit, or possible other solutions and the advantages of each. Then points of follow-up to make sure that you fully understand what I'm talking about and any pointers on how to make this better in the future. Thanks for your time, and thanks for being flexible as we prepare for the AP exam.